Was Mr. Freeman aware that you were being compensated for these services?
I'm sure he was. I don't know. We never discussed my compensation package.
He didn't know how you were getting paid?
I doubt it.
Did he think you were doing this out of the goodness of your heart?
He should know me better than that.
He would know you were being compensated by somebody.
Yes.
Did you ask Stephen Caraway for a report of how much was being spent on him?
I did not.
So when you were a consultant, did anybody ever ask you for information on how much time you were spending with each candidate to facilitate reporting to the candidates on what in kind they should be showing for your time?
No.
Did that strike you as odd?
Not necessarily.
Did you think that during the 2020 primary cycle, the manner of way invoicing was happening, or the amounts of money that were being thrown out, did it strike you as odd?
Could you define odd?
Very unusual, very atypical of any normal political race. You said you've been involved with a lot of races.
Sure.
Was the 2020 primary cycle to you odd in terms of the amount of money or the activities or the invoicing or any aspect?
As you know, Mr. Hicks, campaigns, particularly in 2020 and 2021, are very expensive. Everything is very expensive. Consultants, mail, all of that. I did know that there was obviously large mail projects and things like that going out. Did I really stop and think, my goodness, this is a ton of money? Not necessarily, because again, I've been involved in several House races within, Mr. Hicks, a House race, a competitive one can cost, $300,000 in some cases, depending on what media market. It can cost 7 figures. So obviously for a primary in Southwest Ohio, the campaigns were obviously well funded.
Okay, so I didn't know that was, so you're saying it didn't seem odd to you compared to any other primary race?
I'm having trouble understanding odd. The campaigns were well funded. There certainly wasn't a lack of resources with those campaigns.
Okay.
A small business owner, a strong conservative, a family man. Alan Freeman will bring these same conservative values to the Ohio House, building business and a better Ohio for all our families. Alan Freeman for State Representative.
We're not disputing the TV commercials ran. I knew the TV commercials ran, but the point of how much of the TV was running, I did not have that somehow.
I think we're disputing whether you filed a complete and accurate campaign finance report.
We were running television commercials, and it would have been done by JPL.
You just said, your own words, we were running television commercials.
Yes.
So I think there were 6 invoices in here. It wasn't go to every station on everything. So you never felt, did you ask Susan Jones or anybody since these were produced in my affidavit to go research them?
I did not.
What order of magnitude cost would you think would have applied to such magnitude of a buy of ads?
I would say obviously north of 6 figures. I'm certain that I knew there was going to be a buy.
Okay. Did you in fact call Nick Owens and give him a tip to let him know it was coming?
I would not say it was a tip. I remember having a conversation with Mr. Owens. As you know, Mr. Hicks, he had a press event earlier in the
On March 6th.
week or whatever it is. I can remember being agitated by that press event, and I may have said, they're probably going to do a big buy on you. You shouldn't have said X, Y, Z.
So you informed Nick Owens in advance that you knew that there was a buy, that was going to hit the airwaves?
Most likely, yes.
Did Alan Freeman know there was a buy that was going to hit the airwaves?
I guess, yes, I mean, he's a candidate. He would have known that the television purchase was taking place.
You informed Nick Owens of the ad buy. You knew that the ads were coming. This is your testimony. I think your testimony is that you knew it was a significant ad buy, okay?
Are
So,
those all yeses? I see you nodding your head.
Yes, I'm sorry, sir.
Thank you.
okay, it's a significant ad buy. You testified that Megan Fitzmartin is where you would have found out about the ad buy. So ergo, did you find out about the financial volume of the ad buy from Megan Fitzmartin?
I don't recall that Ms. Fitzmartin gave me a dollar figure. Mr. Hicks, as I've testified, if you are going to have an impact in the Cincinnati television market, it's going to be expensive. And, you know, there are 4 broadcast stations, and so if you're buying network television, particularly in Cincinnati, I would bet every penny I've got that it's going to be a 7-figure buy if you're going to have an impact.
Did the candidate express any concern to you at any point in time that there was some sort of unauthorized ad buy going on?
During the campaign?
Yeah.
Not that I can recall.
Mr. Caraway testified that there were discussions about needing to fundraise using the speaker's team to pay off your debt. Were you involved in those conversations?
I was in the conversations with Stephen. Stephen mentioned that it was not uncommon for the speaker's office to do additional fundraising post-election.
Why would you be engaged in any conversations about paying off your debt if you had $96,000 in the bank and only had $14,000 in expenses?
Because Mr. Caraway was indicating that there was debt, and I wanted to make sure that we cleaned up everything so we could close the books and move on.
And so what became of those conversations?
They ended.
That size of a number, the $290,000 number, were you ever involved in discussions about the campaign having that kind of obligation or that kind of expense?
With whom? That was specifically,
With anybody?
Oh, sure. So you're talking post-primary?
Yes.
Okay.
But no, I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about, you know, within the 30 days after the primary.
Right. So I do know that Mr. Freeman and I had a conversation. I'm sorry, I can't recollect when it was. You know, was it April, May, June? I'm not sure, of 2020. He did ask me, hey, do you know anything about a bill? And I said, Alan, you need to talk to Columbus about that. And I have testified that I do not remember specifically having a $290,000, 744, 290K discussion with him specifically as it relates to this document.
Did you tell other people that you had? Did you tell me that you had?
There was some concern.
That's a yes or no question.
Yeah, I do not remember exactly what I talked to you about, Mr. Hicks.
Did you tell Nick Owens that that was the approximate amount?
Probably.
How did you know the approximate amount that you told Nick Owens?
Well, a couple of reasons. First of all, based on my experience of knowing that a mail plan cost about this much, obviously there was television, there was a lot of things. I mean, it looked to me like a $250,000 campaign.
But you never discussed that number with Alan Freeman.
I'm certain at some point I had conversations with Mr. Freeman about his invoice, that his concern of, hey, you know, I need to take care of my billing, whatever the case, and in which I told him that he needed to contact Columbus, the folks at JPL Associates or Constant Content or whomever.
If I told you that we discussed the size and scope of Alan Freeman's bill and his knowledge of it, would you have reason to believe I was not telling the truth?
I would have no reason to believe that.
What did you discuss with Anna Lippencorp relating to Alan Freeman's campaign?
Objection, hearsay.
I think he can testify what he discussed. He can't testify what she discussed.
I would have discussed with her post-primary in 2020 because I was confident that there was a deficit, Mr. Hicks. And at that point, I was told that they were going to work to raise the money into the Freeman for committee, whatever it was called, to pay the bill.
And who were they?
The speakers, you know, the sitting House Speaker at the time.
Okay. After March 17th, did you and Alan Freeman ever have discussions about the cost of what was going on and his ability to pay for it?
I am certain that Mr. Freeman and I had a conversation about his cost of his campaign.
And so I'm asking, at that time period, towards the end of the campaign, did you observe having any issues getting Megan Fitzmartin or Anna Lippencorp or even Jeff Longstreth, if you needed them, to communicate with you?
No.
Okay.
How would I have found that out but for making that connection to Anna Lippencock or somebody else that's inside JPL? I did not have access to those folks that could answer that question.
When you found out from me or from that he had, you know, close to 100,000 still in his campaign account after raising 115, did that strike you as odd?
I'm not trying to be funny. Obviously, odd. It was unusual, certainly, that you know, a candidate for any public office or any office has you know, that expenditure in their bank account following an election. I mean, generally, you spend these things down, you get a bill, you spend it down, and usually the campaign's running on fumes. They don't even have enough money to buy hors d'oeuvres at the party on election night. You spend all of the money.
So, okay, so it seemed odd to you that there was so much, as a percentage of his campaign account that was still in the account after in his post-primary.
I'll concur.
I was asking if this is the complete list, if this is the complete report that, for the financial disclosure of everything that would have been.
Commissioner, I can't answer that question because I didn't input this data and didn't receive the bills.
So you were asked by the commission whether this was a complete and accurate, and you said you can't answer that. But you could say that your invoice that you submitted to the Freeman campaign is not reflected on this report. Is that a correct statement?
That's correct.
Okay.
If you look at the direct mail pieces that I've put out that have my disclaimer on it, they've all been positive. They've all talked about economic development. They've all talked about growth and opportunity.
What did you authorize? So you never authorized any mail to actually be sent?
I authorized the art for it to be sent. The dollar amount I did not authorize. I'll say that again.
You were aware mail was going.
Correct.
You talked about it in a campaign forum.
I did.
How did you think, who did you think was paying for it then?
Well, we had funds in our bank account. We were also trying to raise more money, and so that's what we do.
So hold on, you had funds in your bank account, but you never authorized it, so that would be, so who did you think was paying for it when it was being done?
At the moment, I had no idea.
I'm asking the number of times mailers were dropped to large volumes of households in an organized way.
Okay, thank you. I understand now. Multiple. I would agree with your assessment that it was 5 to 10. For a 5,000 piece drop, you're looking at 4 to 5,000.
You're aware that Nick Owens went to the FBI?
I am, yes.
And that he went to the FBI sometime between the press conference on the 6th that he conducted with other candidates and the March 17th date, somewhere in that range, he went to the FBI.
I am aware of that.
Did you talk with him about that?
Not until after the events unfolded in July of 2020, I was made aware.
Okay. Did you ever consider going to the FBI?
For what reason?
I'm just asking.
Yeah. No.
No? Okay.